Or not. Ministry. How do we relate to Jesus Christ and to one another in the church? There is only one. There is one concept of ministry that overrides all of them, and I've rarely read about this in books on ministry. But it is this: you look at the word ministry, and the word ministry comes from the Latin, two words, the prefix minus and the root stare. Minus means small, stare means to stand. Ministry is fundamentally a relationship. It's not an activity. Ministry is a relationship. It is a relationship of standing small in relation to the other. What do you do when you stand small? Well, you're not groveling. You're not, whining about a poor self-image or woe is me or all of that. You're not letting yourself be victimized. You are standing small in relation to the other so as to actively lift up the other. Now, Jesus, I've heard recently also in some lectures that I've listened to, Jesus at the Last Supper, when he washed his disciples' feet, the significant gesture of washing the disciples' feet was not that he was simply doing them a service, but that he, as the master, placed his head lower than their heads. Okay? It's interesting, in Latin, the word teacher is magister. Magister is the opposite of minister. Magister is one who stands above. I'm being a magister right now. My head is above every single one of yours. And I'm expecting you to pay attention to the fact that my head is above each one of yours. But if I get down to wash John's feet here, my head is now lower than him. And that's what Jesus did. So he exemplified that the greatest must be the least. The greatest must be like the little child. The characteristic of the little child is not only dependence and learning, but the characteristic of the little child is that he's little. And you need to get down to their level. And even, what's the best way to get the attention of a small child? Put your head lower than theirs so that you are looking up to them. At least that's what I found. It works sometimes. Maybe not always as a parent, but I will get in more later at another time the Eucharist. What's key there is summit and source. I can't do this without movement. Summit and source. And life and mission. Keep thinking about the relationship of those words. So finally, what's the role of the pastor and the staff in relation to the whole community of the Church of the Good Shepherd? Well, I got something you don't have. Okay? We can't deny that. That is the power of orders. Okay? That power has to be exercised as service. As service of unity, as service of teaching, and service of worship. And those are the threefold roles of, teacher, presider, shepherd. And I think that the power of orders is not that I do all of those things. but that I have a responsibility to gather the community that exercises the priesthood of Jesus Christ by doing all of those things. I'm not the one who is the missionary out to Beverly Hills and Century City and UCLA. You are. I am ministering to you, hopefully to inspire, encourage, enable the community to be leaven out there. So it's not necessarily a neat and tidy relationship, but I think there are definite lines of responsibility and community that really are important here. And secondly, staff. What do we pay people for in the church? That sometimes is a bit of a bone of contention. We have a lot of volunteer leadership, a lot of volunteer ministries, people who are not being paid, people who are doing this because of their commitment to Jesus Christ, because of their baptism, because of their confirmation, because of their sacramental life of the church. And then we do have paid ministry staff, and we do have paid support staff. I think the distinction needs to be made in terms of support as well as, in a sense, terms of responsibility. In the best of communities, there is only a certain level of expectation that you can have for somebody who steps forth of their own free will to do something. And we have to be very careful to nurture that level of responsibility. But somebody's also got to be doing that nurturing. Somebody's got to be doing the service that enables a ministering community to hold together. And part of the role of ministerial leadership that is supported, ordained, or paid, also has to be carrying forth the vision and helping to shepherd others to work in accord with that vision. So we're getting into then the diversity of roles. This will be really my very last point. So very often we look at the role of the church, the work of the church, in terms of needs. What do people need? To a certain extent, we need to do that. There are needs that cry out for our response as God's people. But what we often don't value is the discernment of gifts to help to determine your role. We sometimes think that ministers, whether volunteer or paid staff, that ministers should be able to be a one-size-fits-all. Respond to whatever need there is. I think that we also need very much to pay attention not just to one another's gifts. Hey, I think you would be really good doing that, you'd be really good there. We need also to pay attention to our own gifts and discern, where do I find myself called by the fact that God has given me this gift and not that gift? How can I best step in and make use of this gift? And that's why when people ask me, what can I do to help? I want to volunteer in something. And my immediate response is, well, where are your gifts? How do you feel? Where are your interests? Where are your abilities? Where do you think God is calling you? And let's explore in that direction. How are we fixed for time?
8:35.
8:35. I promised to have you out by 9. I'll have you out before 9, but that's going to be up to you. Any questions? Okay, I'll have you out long before that. Homework. And this is what I'm going to share with the people who are not here and try to elicit their interest through this. The first thing that I would like